Sir. Yes, sir. Muting. Good morning, all coaches. Today is the last session for badminton CDP. So I'm requesting our director sir can speak few words.
Yeah, Bhaskar, we are there.
Yes, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Change the screen because I'm not getting myself only.
Okay, sir. Sorry, sir.
Okay. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, men and women, boys and girls. I was told to say boys and girls because there are many boys and girls also here in between. They feel good to be called so. Okay. Yeah, I can see a lot of smiles when I said boys and girls. Mr. Gopichand, are you there?
Yes.
Thank you. It's been nice seeing you after long.
Yes, I'm there, sir.
Okay. And the coaches that made a faculty and this program possible. Okay. Finally, we have come to an end of this program. It's just the end of this program. It's not the end of the life and not the end of interaction that we'll be carrying on here and after. You guys have given a wonderful numbers. I mean, this is one of the most subscribed kind of a course that we had in last about 21 days. Finally, it just remains for me to thank you, Mr. Gopichand, and your faculty, that awesome faculty that you had, and enriched all of us who've been listening and watching to these programs. So this would be the last session today. As you all been told, there will be an examination on 30th and 31st. I don't want to go much into it because I'm not an examination man myself. Whatever has been told to you guys, you can please appear for that and take the best benefits out of it. So last 21 days have passed of lockdown. Wish you all very safe heavens in your own homes in accordance to the amateur regulation. Hope we come out of this very soon. To the end of it, I wish you all the very best. Hand over to Mr. Gopichand. Please take on and take us on a nice, safe journey here and after. Take care, please.
Thank you very much, sir. Thanks to Sai and the entire team, Bhaskar, and the entire team which has facilitated it. And thank you very much, sir, Captain Sir, for the wonderful words of encouragement. And to all the coaches who have been part of this in the last few days. It's been really wonderful. I hope it's been useful for all of you. It was good to have a perspective from Agu's coach, Namri. I had some very good reviews of yesterday's session of Kiran and Johnson. They've been fantastic. And also the entire team behind me who have actually made this possible. Sai, once again, for this wonderful interaction. Today's session, I would just speak on a few of the questions which Bhaskar had compiled and forwarded to me, and also on some of the other things which you want to put it on the mailbox. I just request you all to keep your chat limited to questions so that I'm clearly able to see if I can address some of these in the last session. So keep it relevant, keep it so that we can have this chat of an hour, which would be productive for all of us. So keep the questions coming, and just the vicious messages, just stop for the moment. Having said this, I think one of the first questions which Bhaskar had sent me was how to control nervousness during the game. This is something which each player, it's important that the coach addresses independently. No one size fits all, but it is good to actually ensure that, one second, I can see some questions coming. It's important that each one of the players is taken independently. It helps to have a motivational talk to the players, which is like a pep talk, which helps them to say that this is what your strength is, this is what it is, and I want you to give it your best shot. And win or lose, it doesn't really matter, but you go out there and give your best shot. And that is very, very important as a coach to give. Some players might take a lot more time because nervousness is also there because they have not played enough tournaments. So when they play more tournaments, then they get used to the atmosphere of having 50 people or people watching them. It helps. So that is something which is important to understand. The second question was, I want to know how to release shuttles while doing overhead. This I'll go through. So for all of us, more than ever before, as coaches, hands-on work is a very and we all need to learn how to multi-feed because it gives us an opportunity to work together with players without needing the help and support of many other people. So you can work on strength, on movement, all of these things. Yourself, you don't need support of me for that. So I just take this for my son to actually show this video of multi-feeding so that you have an understanding of how these things are done. I'll just go through the questions one more time. Vishnu, please do, how do we, some agility and speed exercises, shadow and proper footwork. Okay, I think there have been questions regarding multi-feed. There have been also been questions regarding how to develop speed during the lockdown, how to improve your net game, and anything else, exercises at home. So I think a lot of people asking how do we develop exercise strength and explosive strength and power. Okay, let's get it. I'll start off with the multi-feed and some of the exercises that we can do at home. Yeah, so all of us just remember multi-feed is a very important thing. How you drop the shuttle is very critical. So this is how you drop it. This is how you drop it. Just watch the finger go, tuck, tuck, tuck. So you can go one, tuck, 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 tuck. This is how. So this is one way of doing multi-feed. You can also have the hand held method where you can do this one. So this is one way of doing it. These are two ways of doing multi-feed training. You can actually, some of you wanted to learn how to do multi-feed overhead. So you have a choice. So you can actually do this way. Watch out. You can go fine. Many of these things we learn by practice. So there is no easy way out, but you can do this. Some coaches could also do this one. This is also a way of doing it. So you're holding the head shuttle, hold the shuttle, and then you throw it up and you hit. You hold the shuttle, throw it up and you hit. Hold the
Sir, August sir.
Hello.
Yeah, sir, August sir. Sir, Gopichand sir. I mean, maybe Wi-Fi problem. Sir left. I will get back to you, sir. Or till then, you just continue the session, sir. Please. Sir, August sir. Sir, August sir. Can you hear me, sir? Sir, August sir, can you hear me?
Dogs are not allowed. So we hire Bengalis. Bengalis are not allowed. ये मनीष अगर आएगा तो ऐसे होगा कोई भी काम करा लो बायोमेकेनिक्स का करा लो फिजियोलॉजी मनीष का बायोमेकेनिक्स और इसमें है सर बायोमेकेनिक्स एंड स्ट्रेंथ एंड कंडीशन दोनों में अप्लाई किया था फिजियोलॉजी में वो नहीं हुआ बायोमेकेनिक्स एंड स्ट्रेंथ एंड कंडीशन
Sir, Kiran sir, can you hear me, sir?
Yes, Bhaskar, I can hear you. I think
Yes, yeah, sir. Gopichand sir, maybe internet problem, sir, is not able to. I mean, not able to. So
Gopi
please.
sir messaged actually. Bhaskar, can you connect me like that? Gopi sir messaged in the chat box. Can you try one more time?
Yeah, sir. But till then, you just continue, sir. I mean, yesterday some doubt like this. I will connect, sir.
Okay. Or shall I ask Agus coach also? Coach, Agus coach, can you hear? Namri coach, can you hear?
12th or 15th?
Coach, Agus coach.
Yeah, sir. Sir, Gopichand sir, back, sir.
Huh?
Okay, good.
Thank you, sir. Sorry. Yeah, sir, Gopichand sir.
Hello.
हाँ एक जो नाम बोला सुब्रत फिजियोलॉजी में he can be a good candidate because Patiala he was 3 years
But yes. So the multi-field you can do and hit, throw up and hit, throw up and hit. Okay, I think this would answer the question regarding multi-fields. We all spoke about, some people wanted to know about grip and backhand and forehand. So I'll just go back and forth. I think very, very fundamentally important that we hold the grip loosely and we are taking, all of you know the basic classic backhand grip, the forehand shakehand grip, and we also have a tap kind of a grip. So this is one backhand, forehand, and when you go for a shuttle which is here and which is up here, then to have the thumb behind is okay. Down, it actually helps to have the hand on the side of the grip. So it's important that this is the new thing which I want you to learn, is when you're standing here, shuttle comes up, you can still hit a thumb which is behind. But if a shuttle comes down, this helps to actually play the grip with the side grip. So this is important. The very important factor in badminton, which all of us need to know, is many of the times we say we want to go here, we go 1, 2, 3, come back, 1, 2, 3. This is how we're normally thinking. But I think the first foremost thing is to have a preparation step. You can call it a split jump, a jumping down, preparation, whatever. You just, and then you move. You go back, 1, 2. So you can do this, where you can go split and this movement, or split this movement. But the first step has to be a preparatory step. So you can have two kinds. So when you serve, if you're serving high, then you go 1, 2, 3. The important things to remember would be that your hand at the front of the court is straight. If you're a doubles player, it was explained that the racket head falls from top to down. You're going this way, you're going this way. So this is how you go for doubles. For singles, it's good that you go like this, but you have to ensure that your hand is not, elbow is not bent, but straight. Try and keep the chuck movement has to be, the first movement has to be led by the hand. So many times we also end up moving like this in the end. So be conscious of that. So move with the racket in front. Move with the racket in front. Move with the racket in front. It's so important that you actually are keeping your hand straight. I won't say straight like a rod, but straight. This is relaxed and straight, so that you can play a lot of shots and change direction if the stroke needs to be changed at the last moment. So with all of that, it is important to have a preparatory movement. There are two kinds of preparatory movements. One is you go here, left, come back to center, wait, split and move. The other is like this. You go back, split and move. The other one is you lift, come back slowly, and then this last step becomes your preparatory motion, and then you move. So you're here. If you have a lot of time to wait in the center, then you wait and then split and move. If you're here, you move slowly back and then you move. So these are two different kinds of split movements which can be used, and both are very useful. As and when players get better and better, and this is when Agus coach had said that players become more efficient. Efficient would mean that they're not running back all the time, as in they're not going, running, moving. No, I think efficient would mean play the stroke, move, move. That's how you would mean by being efficient. It's very important that as players progress from level to level, it is important that players start becoming more and more efficient. So you want footwork to help them become more efficient on court. So you want to have the racket in front. Always remember the elbow and the racket are in front. The second thing to remember is you don't wait for the shuttle. You approach the shuttle. You approach the shuttle. You're not waiting for the shuttle, but you approach the shuttle. So this is something which is important. At the highest level, you can have variations to it, but as a general principle, it's good in the beginning for many of us to think players should reach the shuttle up, should move faster, and also to try and take a lot of shuttles overhead and not turn to backhand very easily. Especially sub-junior, junior levels, make it a point to tell them to reach the shuttle high, to go out and take overhead and not so much of backhand. It helps to be more aggressive on court, to actually have good movement. These things are important. So approach the shuttle, take it at the highest point, try and take more overhead than backhand. Only when necessary, you can take a backhand. So these are things which are important to learn, to remember from a footwork perspective. I think one of the other things, your base position, ensure there is a slight bend on the knee. The elbow and the racket are in front. And then when you go in front, ensure that you're landing with the heel and rolling over, and that's important. So the other thing which I would want to also mention, which I think I've mentioned before, is if you have your hands like this, you do not reach enough. So on court, especially if the opponent is playing from the net, it's important that you hold the racket in front. Your right leg or the playing leg is in front. If you're a left-hander, it's like this. If you're a right-hander, it's like this. So you play a shuttle, your racket head is like this, so that you're moving to the shuttle quickly. So racket head like this. So if you tend to play left hand closer, then your reach becomes only so much. But if you left, then your reach is increased quite a bit. So you want you all to ensure that the racket is stretched out when you play. That's an important aspect which you need to remember. Elbow straight, racket in front, legs lunging and falling. So many times when players play, they also end up moving in this direction. So I want all of you to remember to ensure that the foot should be placed properly. Otherwise, this way, there's too much pressure on the IT, the knee joint, the ankle. It's not a good way. So you want it to be in line with the knees. And that's important, that this is the movement which you need to practice. If it's a big lunge, then it's good to follow up. If it's a small lunge, it's okay to just hold the drag. If it's drag big, then this might be too difficult. So just in such cases, you tend to get back with your left, your non-racket hand, non-racket leg supporting you. So this is something which I want you all to remember. On the back end, I think we need to remember whenever we need to move, the opposite side movement is what gives us the kick. The opposite side head movement is what gives us the kick. So you want to be moving to the backhand. This is the push which helps us. You want to go to the forehand. This is the push which helps us. So all of you, the push at a higher level would be back this side, push, and this side if you have to go. This is important. So these are two footworks for the back of the court which would be important. To the side of the court, what you all to remember, elbow in front, grip loosely held, split, and then fall over, and then come back. So the important thing is to have the body move across. Here, remember, if the elbow is here, you can only reach here, it's more. So elbow on the side, locked, you can only reach here. So there's no power coming. Elbows in front, you have a chance of driving. The range is more. So you want not stuck here, elbow front, so that you're able to move freely. So this is something which would be important. For all players whom we spoke about for doubles also the thinking is the same. You still should have no defenses like this. Defense is still having the preparatory step, preparatory step, prep step, preparatory step. So make it a point that people are defending, they still are doing the preparation step. They're going up, drive, 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 drive. So they're just moving and not standing and defending. We see many players defending like that. I think you need to be alert that they all need to be down, moving, 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 moving. But this movement of the legs and the bend in the knee is something which is important for doubles players as well. The one aspect regarding the elbow for doubles, in the front, elbow should be up. If shoulder height, above should be. So make it a practice that people are moving with the elbow staying up, 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 up. So elbow up is an important thing. All of you need to be aware that the elbow up is something which we need to kind of ensure. So these are some of the things which are in regards to footwork. If there are any questions in regard to footwork specific, please let me know on the chat box immediately so that I can address those questions. And after that, I can take some of the other questions in regard to explaining about the footwork, the speed and agility. Request all of you again not to just give questions. Okay. I think some of you have been asking about footwork drills, and I'll just request you all, can you please show us different tennis ball exercises, push off from lunging. For push off from lunging, and I've mentioned this once, I'll just repeat it again. Once the lunge is big, then if it's a big lunge, then you need to drag your foot, then it's okay. But if you think it's a small lunge, then come back, it's important. So every time in badminton, it's very, very important that you're not falling off. So a back footwork doesn't mean you fall off. So a back footwork would mean you come back, and you come back in the similar way. You come back, similar way you come back. So the moment you're moving, so this is very important, that your foot is light and moving. It's very important that you hit the amount of time you spend on landing decides how quickly you move and how good a player you are. So if you are a good, high quality player, it would mean that you're hitting and not staying here long. So top player would mean that they're hitting and coming back quickly. You're hitting and coming back quickly. The more you stay, then it's not good. So you want to be moving quick so that the leg moves back, the leg moves back, it moves back. So it's very important that you lunge and get back. So all of our training should be to ensure that players are moving quickly, but they come back to base very, very powerfully and strong. It's just like move up, come back, move up, come back, come back. So this is something which is important. So people have asked how do we teach players how to hit a good forehand toss? I think it's very, very important that we have a particular exercise which have you catch a shuttle like this. You catch the shuttle somewhere here. So you're catching the shuttle in a position with your legs in position and your hand. So when kids are playing, so just give them an exercise where they can actually catch. So imagine, since there's no height, I would say that, think that I'm here and this is my standing position. So as a kid, I'm watching. So you want to be holding the racket like this. You want to be holding the shuttle like this so that you're in position to hit. So players are moving and they're catching the shuttle here. Players are moving and they're catching the shuttle here. So this is how you want to develop a contact in kids. You throw a lot of shuttles so that the player is able to catch the shuttle. And if they catch the shuttle correctly, this is how it looks like. If they catch the shuttle correctly, this is how you look like. So the things which you have to remember are that the body is in one straight line and the elbow is not tilting backwards. And it's also not here, but the elbow is here. And don't worry too much if the elbow is too low, too up. What's important is at the point of contact, the elbow has to raise and pivot up. So it has to be that whenever you're here, you catch the shuttle, use a lot of time, kids are moving back, 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 catch the shuttle in this position, and then so that when they hit, they're able to hit it on the highest position. So you have to be making players learn this. So hand is back, elbow, this is the position, and the elbow is moving up. So this is what would be very, very important. So all of us need to ensure that we have good technique on hitting. Now, this other aspect which I wanted to share was some of you asked how to hit a powerful smash. One way is that many of the times we end up having players rotate. The smash is being hit from here. So they're hitting the smash here. So your entire body should flow into the smash. So this is how. So you want players to pick up. So you want players to use the body and the twist and the turn. You want this, the hip to twist, and you see the twist here. So this is important that you do the twist and then you roll the wrist up and the elbow goes up and the pivot happens and the smash happens. You want it to be tuck, this movement, want it to balance smash contact on the sides, but you want it right up, which really helps you. So the catching will actually help you to ensure that you're hitting the shuttle in the right position. So catch with your non-racket hand is a very important aspect of training. And at the point of contact, I've always said, remember to hold the grip loose, but when you hit a smash, you have to harden the grip. So loose, body loose, but at the point of contact, the power has to generate and you have to hold it tight. And ensure that you're not slicing. One of the ways to ensure that you're not slicing is get a 10 to 15 degree slight shift so that the hand, the racket is actually flowing and you're actually in line with the smash. So that's an important aspect. So you want to be teaching kids all of these things. So people have asked, what are the exercises to be done? I think this, when you look at it, this is the one which is very important. Focus on the legs. Leg exercise, which is important. You see the fact that the legs are moving in a particular direction. The legs are moving in a particular direction. So the same thing you can do as exercises where you can go. This is an exercise we can do, which actually will be the same exercise as hitting this. So people who are in lockdown can practice this with a racket and hit a lot of smashes. It will help. The other aspect is you can do multiple levels of agility exercises. And I'm sure on YouTube, you will find many exercises. I will just show a few of them. One could be these could be longer. There could be shorter, wider, really fast. Then there could be some where you do these movements. Basically move side, 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 side. This is one. So you can do multiple exercises like this, which can help you to become faster. So one of the good exercise, one of the important exercises for badminton would be to do a lot of twisting. So you want to do exercises which help your body twist. So this is an important exercise. So you want to be going a lot of the times really as quickly as you can. This is an exercise which would be important. Another exercise which would be keen is to get your legs a little wide and go from this position to this position. This exercise this is one more exercise you can do. So the multiple levels of agility exercises we can do. We can do side jumps. We can do kangaroo jumps. We can do straight jumps. We can do boxes. You can take a box and jump around the box. That's also one way of doing it. So the many exercises of agility which you can do, and I've shown you some of them. The other good exercise to do would be to sit on a chair and do exercises. I think Namri coaches mentioned to you about defense. So you're going defense, so that you have, look, when you sit down, you have no choice but to keep your elbow in front. So that's a good exercise to have. That would be important. Another thing would be important. You can do smashing, overhead smashing. This ensures that your arms strength is improved. One more exercise which people asked was for backhand. I think sitting down, get your grip in position. This is one exercise which we can do. So overall, there are a whole bunch of exercises which we can do from even if you're locked down. So I think I'll stop here and take some more questions. And then I think we can finish some more. One of the questions is, how important is it to have be on your toes. I think it's very, very important for your balance that we actually do it. Ball practice is really useful. I think if we need to develop our strength, but also we can use ball practice to develop deception as well. I think there are tons of questions coming in. How to avoid deception? I think the way to avoid deception is to actually ensure many of the things which I will say will also be things which will have levels. If I'm talking about a very high player, then I would talk in a certain manner. And if I'm talking about a junior player, then I would talk in another level. So I think it's very important for us to understand what level are we targeting. At the highest level, if you have to address deception, then you tell players that you play faster to the center of the court so that players are not able to deceive you. But if I tell the same strategy to a 13 or a 14-year-old, then each of them would not be able to reach the shuttle if you play it in the opponent's hand. So you want to be careful about telling strategies when a large set of coaches are there. Strategy is relevant to the opposition whom we train. So don't be, we cannot actually tell strategy when we address a group of coaches who are training grassroots, under 13, under 15, under 17 men and women. So I want all of you to be knowing that this is something which is important. When you're playing with a heavy racket, important that it is not too heavy. So it's something which is important, that don't take rackets which are too heavy because they have a chance of injury. First thing is to actually have. So mixed doubles, there's questions about mixed doubles strategies. I think unless I have a player and a coach, player at least in a court, I can't really tell about the positions of mixed doubles at the moment. But having said that, mixed doubles has also changed. And if you look at today's world top players, the girls seem to be attacking from the back a lot more than they were in the past. So you are looking at combinations which have moved from being traditional. Traditional would mean girl in front, boy back, to now almost girl at the back many times and the boy in front also. So you have different players playing to different strengths. If you have a boy who's moving well and a girl who's strong at the net, you can use that. But if you have a girl who can move also, it's a good strategy to keep rotating and confusing the opponents. So this is something which is important. I think good fitness is important. And if you're doing exercises for your right hand and right leg, because you are a right-hander, it means that eventually after a while, your body will crack because of the imbalance. So ensure that whether it's your hamstrings versus the quadriceps and the other muscles, or the bicep tricep muscles, or your right and left side, or your upper body and your lower body, I think all of it needs to be in one good balance. Because as badminton players, it's important that we have a sport which actually is all round, and our body also needs to ensure that we're all round in that process. So it's very, very important. For us, many of the times we have more number of children per court. How do we manage them? I think we need to be, as coaches, be very alert about these issues, and we have to ensure that each one of them is active and each one of them is doing something and not staying idle. So one of the ways is to keep 3-3-3, if that is the case, doing half court work, or some doing wall practice, some doing stretching, and every 3 minutes they keep rotating, so that we as a coach are keeping all of them busy. We have coaches talking about LTDP. Long-term athlete development is a very, very important aspect which needs to be taken care of. I have mentioned previously about what needs to be done at a young age and what needs to be done later. Now, there is no secret or a one size fits all. It's a broad guidelines. The guideline talks about a very active start. So kids in life 0 to 6 are very active. And then the next stage is to learn fundamentals with a focus on fun and less of competition. And the third, fourth, fifth stages would be slowly dependent on how well and quickly the player adapts. Our understanding of badminton is that players would develop at various levels at various times. So we cannot make a one size fits all. But if you're a young player, then it is very important that we focus on skill, we focus on flexibility, and we focus on the overall development of players. As they grow older, and if they're progressing well, then we can expose them to some level of competition. Ideally, at a young age, not more than 35% of time should be competition. And as you progress to the senior level, we would say 50% should be competition and 50% should be training. This is something which broadly would explain. The other thing is long distance training versus strength training versus speed training. In my experience, before a big tournament, you prepared well with good preparation, then 14 days before that is when you should actually stop your training of volume and focus more on doing your speed endurance and skill work, which is related to the sport a lot. So that is something which I found has been useful. So these are 2-3 things which I thought I will discuss with. I think the people asking some very irrelevant questions as well. Sorry to say this. I think I'm not here to discuss which racket is good. I think for coaches, for players, I think the level at which you are is important. And if you are wanting anything more, I don't think we have the time to say all of it today. But there were few questions related to a phone. Nana, Ammi phone ivra. Yeah, there were a few questions related to weekly physical exercise program and recovery and session target for kids. I would say that 5 sessions, 1 session is a good one to start off at the sub-junior, mini, junior levels. That will be a good program. And ensure that each session has not more than 60% of the time when they are pushing themselves. Almost 40% of it has to be fun. But as they grow older, beyond 14, 15, that is when they have to have more strenuous exercises coming in. Even then, I would prefer that every third, fourth session, we have a session of relaxation, which makes them enjoy, because that would really help them. Drills to improve on hand and leg speed. I think one of the things would be wall practice is something which is very, very useful. We should have a lot of players do a lot of wall practice or hit shuttles in continuation, so that will be really helpful. How to start playing badminton again? I think badminton, especially after this time, I think request all of you to take a little more time than usual. So go in and do a lot of simple drills, which would be running, some amount of weights, some amount of flexibility, some amount of moving sideways, backwards, shadows, multi-feet, then get back to playing. So don't get back to playing on day one after the lockdown. Do it very slowly. The first few days, spend a lot of time in rotation exercises, strengthening the calf, strengthening the knees, strengthening the hip joint, the abs, the shoulder, all of these things. And after they get better, then you make them do some shadows for a couple of days and then let them play. So don't let day one, let them go and smash and jump up and play. I think that's not a good thing to do. Some people have asked questions about attacking players. If I'm an attacking player, when should I start the attack? My suggestion is whatever is your best game, unless you have a particular opponent and a reason, like shuttles are fast or shuttles are slow or something, just go in and play your best game in the first few strokes. Your best game in the first few strokes. Then by 5-6 points, if your opponent is able to read how you're playing, then you change the game. But always go in and test your strength. Even if your opponent is somebody who knows how you play, then also it's not a bad strategy at all to go in and push and play your best game. Then if it doesn't work, then change to an option B. But always going to play with your best game. I think many players, especially players who are attacking, will take time to be consistent. So if you have somebody who's 14, 15 years old, who is attacking and who's not consistent, I think it's not a cause for worry. Just he will take time to get really good. So understand one thing, I come back to this point, that strength has a 30% ceiling as per research. Speed would have 10-15% ceiling. So it's not that if somebody is slow or a little weak, they can become strong unlimited. No, they have all of the training can help you. So be smart, ensure that they learn late strokes, that they are playing deceptive, they're able to have a strategy which is good and a mind which is positive, And that is how they can address these issues. So you want players to be really knowledgeable and understanding what their games are. If they're good at the net, if they have explosive strength, and if they are able to be smart in creating openings, then it is actually, they could be good doubles players as well. All of us, for strength, for speed, for genetics, and this is what Agus coach was stressing consistently, is the fact that we will have an opening balance, and all our life, if we work hard, also we'll only develop a certain percentage. So it's important that how in the game we can use our strengths to be better. Luckily for badminton, unlike say a tennis or something, we have a 5'11" Sindhu become a top player and a world champion, but also we have an Okuhara or a Yamaguchi who are 4'11" and 5'1", who are top players. So it is possible that we can actually have players with varied physiques in the sport. So it's important that we keep encouraging our players and keep pushing them to be the best of what they can be. I think these are some of the questions which Bhaskar had sent. I'm sure that there are hundreds of questions which are coming in. What I will do is, Bhaskar, can you just collaborate all of these together, and I could take some time.
Sorry, sir, I'm not getting.
Bhaskar, I was saying that you can actually collate all these questions and see if we can answer them to one more session later after a few days.
Okay, sir, sure.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So I think we would stop here, and hopefully once the lockdown is out and we have access to a badminton court, I think we will request Sai to organize another one. And on behalf of Badminton Association of India, we would like to thank each one of you, the Sai team, especially for putting this all together, and to all the coaches for being part of it, and to my entire team of coaches, foreign Indian, and my physiotherapists and trainers. Thank you very much. It's been really nice being part of this journey. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, sir. With this, we have completed all 15 classes with your all support and participant support, coaches support. Thank you, Gopichand sir, Agus sir, Namrit sir, Kiran sir, and Johnson sir. Thank you so much. A sincere thank you all. With all your support only, we completed the session successfully. Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Bhaskar. Thank you.
Yes, I'm requesting all coaches can give your attendance chat box. Please mark your attendance in chat box. I'm displaying the dates, exam dates. Sports science exam is on 31st, and individual discipline exam is on 30. I'm requesting all coaches, please mark your attendance with your name, designation, and center. Sports science session is not yet completed, sir. You can watch that session. Only CDB badminton is completed. Please note this point: exam dates and time, exam timing. I shared one screenshot. Those who gave the attendance can leave the session, please. Session will continue 2 more minutes. Those who gave the attendance can leave. Thank you. Okay. Once again, thank you all. With this, I'm ending the meeting. Thank you so much. Stay home, stay safe. Thank you.